Good, Madam Clerk? Yes, we are. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the special meeting of the Cumberland Town Council for May 27th, 2025. For the record, we have 5 councilors present, which is a quorum. We have 2 missing, Councilor Lisa Bolio and Councilor Bradley. I'm going to go down to the next item. Again, I called it to order at 6:03. The next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item, public comments. Does anyone before we get into the ordinances, does anybody have any public comment they'd like to make to the council? Seeing none, just for the record, I'm sorry, did you have? No, you're going to wait till we get into that particular ordinance. No problem. I am going to state that just for the record, the Finance Subcommittee meeting is going to be May 29th, 2025, 6:30 at the Hayden Libraries, room 1 and 2. The second public hearing and vote will be Monday, June 2nd, 2025, 6 p.m., Cumberland Town Hall. The final vote will be Wednesday, June 4th, 2025, 7:30 p.m. at Cumberland Town Hall. That'll be our regular scheduled meeting. Okay, with that said, I'm going to go on to our ordinance for public hearing. What I'm going to do on the first one, we have 25-10. We have an ordinance establishing the operating budget for the town of Cumberland's general fund for fiscal year 2025-2026, presented by the council president. On behalf of the administration, I'm going to open that at 6:05, and how I'm going to do this, members of the council, first I'm going to let the mayor open with a brief presentation. I am then going to read the department numbers into the record. I will stop after each one to see if the council members have a question. Once that is done, I will turn it over again to the mayor to explain anything and take questions from you. I will then turn it over to the public. And then after the public comment is done, I will leave it for members of the council for any other follow-up questions. So we'll start right away. So again, we have the ordinance establishing the operating budget. It's 25-10. Mayor, open the public hearing at, already did 6:05. Mayor, do you want to do your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council, everyone in attendance. I'm going to do my best because I can't even see it from here, actually. But yeah. So did we actually download this, or? Well, I can take it from here off the top of my head, but. I think in the budget message, we really talk, I call it like we're kind of in the thick of it right now, where, our main funding focus is going to be the school construction. And so a lot of this budget in FY26 really is predicated on accomplishing that task. And I don't want to jump too far, but a lot of it is still, there's revenue replacement in last year's budget to stay within the 4% cap and the 3% rate. We used some fund balances to balance that budget. It is in all likelihood, FY25 will finish with us using those fund balances, so we will not have them to use again. So thankfully, the housing aid that's coming in FY26 is enough to remove some of those fund balances, but not all. We're still balancing this budget as it is proposed with $350,000 of fund balance and $700,000 in revenue stabilization. So, it is our goal to certainly get the budget structurally balanced, certainly by the end of my term, but it's still going to be a challenge. So the proposed tax rate is 3.5%. In full transparency, we're running that off of if this was not a reval year, but it is in fact a reval year. So rate is in all likelihood to go down, but the tax levy is proposed at 4%. But, with property values, in all likelihood, going up significantly, that rate will actually come down. But I didn't want to propose a rate that looked less because of that and presuppose those assessments. So it is projected at 3.5 with a 4% levy. What do we got next? Yeah, so these are some of the drivers. This is what Alex Prignano used to show these in all the school department budgets back in the day. So it does incorporate $740,000 and change to the town contribution to education. Police pension, OPEB, is up a little over 300. Trash and recycling, not just for us, but everywhere, 141. Then there's debt service that's going up, 635. And then we have some some IT, some hardware that we need to replace to the tune of about 200. These are round numbers. And then street lighting, it's possible that that might be offset because we're still waiting for Rhode Island Energy to, if you do remember, the state took over some of our street lighting. We have not seen that revenue yet. What do we have next? Yeah, so there's a few things that are behind the scenes of this budget. So you're going to see the HSA upload, which this year would have been somewhere in the 200,000 range. We're actually going to fund that off a fund balance that we now have. I don't know if the council will remember, but we made a change back a few years ago, and that change has left us in the vicinity of $1.4 million in fund balance. So we're going to use that to offset the HSA upload. The debt, so if you're going to know, so part of the strategy to get us to the 740,000 for the school department, not just the 3.5, but was we have some master leases, and you are going to notice in your budget that there are some departments that the department budget is going to go down, but the master leases that were inside some of those departments have been taken out of those departments and put into the master lease line. So they're not really, it presents an appearance as they may be defunded, but they're not. But there are two school I'm not sure if anybody was around, but there were two $5 million master leases taken out in 2015, 2016, and the last payment is due in FY 26. So instead of paying those out of the general fund, we are going to pay those out of the capital fund, and then in the the next 3 years, we're actually going to pay back that fund starting in FY 26. So that's part of the strategy that gets us where we are today. And then there's a few, most notably, the public safety complex has had a run of capital needs out of that facility. And so I have pulled those out to balance the budget. And the plan is to actually create an internal committee to go through all capital building improvement type requests and keep within a certain budget number. So that's part of the overall strategy to get us to the point where we can allocate the funding that we have right now. And then just in closing, I kind of played around a little bit with this. There was going to be this slide that said that recent reports have shown that the town of Cumberland is not perfect. And I was going to cite some kind of, fictional reports that showed that. But the fact of the matter is there'll always be challenges, but I do want to recognize, town departments throughout the town. You have the library, an iconic place, and certainly a top-notch facility. I think we have them all over the place. Top performing school district, all paramedic EMS, accredited police department, solid fire department. I also wanted to cite the fact that Cumberland is one of the, for our size, is one of the few communities where we do not have a split rate. So the residential and the commercial is the same rate. Our neighboring communities do not. that's not the case. So I do think we present as business friendly, and if you were to look at RIPEC's most recent report, that will bear that out some. And then, recreational space, I always say that, what's important in town are, I generally categorize those as amenities, but, I mean, those are important to a bedroom community like Cumberland. So I just wanted to highlight that because, like anything else, so there will always be challenges, and we're not representing it as perfect, but I do want to note all the positive things too in Cumberland. So I don't know how you want to proceed. I can take questions now, or I anticipate them, during here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. President, can I just say, well, I'm sorry too. I always, I've said it in the past, but I do want to recognize the collaborative effort that we have with the school department and the school administration. I know I've said that at the joint meetings. I've said that, I've been around a long time and have enjoyed that relationship. They are part of the solution all the time. I understand that we have a little bit of, a gap here. We're always doing everything we can to bridge that gap, but I never want that it be taken for granted that relationship and that back and forth. So I just want to give kudos to the school administration and also everyone that provides education in the town of Cumberland, doing a great job. Thanks.
Again, thank you, Mayor. The mayor's going to take questions. Anybody have any questions on this presentation? And if there's none, I'm going to get into reading the numbers of the budget. Okay, no questions. I'm going to move on. So the first thing, I'm going over to revenue, and I got a total revenue. Mayor proposed is $82,089,714. Moving down, library receipts, $4,002. $400,002.16. School receipts total $31,723,576. State aid and grants total $10,999,386. Total revenue is $125,214,692. Moving on to general fund expenditures. Total town departments, $14,981,268. Total public safety, $10,848,117. Total administration, technology, $427,827. Total fringe, $5,155,000. Total town council, $123,121. Total boards and commissions is $27,836. Community outreach expenditures is $103,000, proposed by the mayor. Again, mayor proposed. Total town general expenses, $1,457,902. Is that correct? Total debt service, mayor proposed $8,404,000. Is that 673 or 873? Total town, $41,528,943. Mayor proposed total school department, $3,000,000 $686,749. Total general fund, $125,214,692. Okay. Mayor, is there anything else you wanted to add before I go to the council for questions on the expenditures?
No, thank you, Mr. President.
Any questions of the mayor on this ordinance? None? Go ahead, Mr. Mativia.
Hello? The information technology, looks like it almost doubled or more than doubled, 215 to 427 million. Is that a new project or overhaul?
This is I am told, and it's not an area of expertise for me, but I am told that there are many pieces of computer hardware that are effectively going to be out of date by October, I think, of this year. So the majority of that is hardware replacement for town departments.
And the other question, for the severance, that's for someone that was let go, or?
Yes, and that's a good question. So historically, we have, that's been a line for any, well, that's been a line for town employees that if you were to leave employment, we have not budgeted those inside individual departments, but had a catch-all for that. This year, or even taking that a little step further, I've reduced the severance line inside the police department, which had its own severance line. And we're hoping that we're going to capture all those inside that number. That is that number in all likelihood should have been higher. But yes, that is for, you know, so when a member of the police department retires, there's a significant payment that goes along with that. Some of it is budgeted inside the police department, some of it is not. So it's going to reside, hopefully, inside that line.
Okay, so the amendment for the last budget, it looks like we had 125 and then amended, took it out. Is that
Yes.
something we did? at the beginning
Because
of the last budget or
historically,
recently?
we've kind of left it there, and then as the year progresses, if it's trending well, we've moved it into someplace else. As I always say, it is not a question of whether or not we are going to have a budget amendment. It's just a question of when, because we will always amend the budget at some point in time during the year, and specifically in front of the setting of the levy, because it's just a belief I have that that should happen in conjunction. Those two should happen at the same time. So in years past, we have left, so we've had severance in some other lines, and it's not, you know, who knows, it would be a lovely thing if a year from now we came and amended that line down to zero. I think it's highly unlikely.
Makes sense, thank you. One last thing, the tax anticipation notes.
Yep, so tax anticipation notes, so we haven't had to do any for a long time because of COVID and the school borrowing. So you'll notice that that line is pretty similar to, I knocked it up a little bit because we had to borrow. The council approved it pretty close to the largest tax anticipation note resolution. There was one higher during COVID, if you recall, it was 25 million. This one was 22 million, I believe. So those costs have significantly gone up. Last year, we did not have that budgeted, so you'll see that that is part of the budget amendment for FY25, and we're anticipating budgeting correctly for FY26. Possibly that may have some room in it later on, but and also part of the tax anticipation note was due to the water department owing the general fund money, which actually, increased the amount that we had to borrow. So that's not a wildly, it's a good number, but it's not like, it could be a little higher, actually. Could be a little lower, but it's right on, it's close to being on the money.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Mayor, I got a question on page 36 I wrote down here where it said about the, how much is the 2026 school construction aid? Do you know what the number is that we're getting? Is that?
The number on the revenue side for school construction aid, as members of the school administration will attest to, has to be right, because we have expended an inordinate amount of time to make sure that it is right. And so it's $3,921,721.
So you're using that to.
That's a real number. That is a ride. I mean, school department can speak to it, but we met with, our financial advisors and everyone to make sure. Because part of our issue was that, which has kind of put us somewhat in this position, is that our initial modeling had that housing aid for FY25 significantly higher than it actually came in. So that aid is based on substantially complete. So if you don't make, and the bonus points is there's a lot involved in getting that number correctly. And so our modeling, or the modeling that was presented to us, was missed the mark in FY25, which is why we used accumulated fund balances to offset. But that number of 3,921,721, that's carved in stone. That's going to be right on the money. And it's projected to be another 400 higher in FY27.
On that page, when I read it, when I was going over this, it said you're going to use some of that to pay the fund balance that we used from 2025. Is that accurate?
No, what it's actually doing, so we used in 2025, we used $1,011,225 from the debt service fund, and we used $450 from the opera fund. So effectively, that extra revenue, which could have been used, is still a general fund revenue, right? Could have been used to offset some expenses. It is in fact offsetting revenues that we no longer have.
Okay.
So your housing aid is up $1.8 million and change, but you had $1.5 million of one-time revenues that you don't have anymore. So effectively, they've, with a little bit on the extra side, but they've offset, which in a perfect world, that wouldn't offset revenues, that would have offset expenses, but that is not the case.
You answered the healthcare. I had the same question on the healthcare HSS upload. The computers that was brought up by Mr. Tivia, is that where things are going to be out? I mean, is this mandatory that we have to do the 200,000 now? It's nothing that's.
I am told yes,
Okay.
because if I could have waited, it wouldn't be
Yeah, I
it
know.
wouldn't
I
be in
think
there.
When you look at this budget and we're at the cap, and I actually told you this before the meeting, we're picking at things here. There is just literally nothing that you could move to help.
Well, I would argue that actually, I mean, we're front paying mass leases that would expire in the year after. I mean, I always feel that you obviously have to plan ahead, but you also have to live from one budget to the next because things change, and recognizing, the achievement gains on the school side. But, in a perfect world, would I make those suggestions? No, absolutely not. But, based on the, going by our expertise, I'm told that those computers are no longer going to be supported, and we need to make that investment. So that's why that's there. Pension and OPEB fully funded at the actuarially determined contribution. So, but, like I said, this doesn't represent a perfect world.
And on page 182, I had marked about the master lease, but you already explained that, right, the 275 to 499?
Well, the master leases, so they're historically, there's some master leases in EMS, there's some master leases in highway, there's some master leases in the police department. So instead, I think if you look through the roll-up, you're going to see their lease payments are broken down to zero. They are then brought into either the town master lease or whatever that line is. But that line is, at least on the, one of the $5 million master leases was the town, or the town picked it up for the school department. One of them was straight school, so they go away because we're paying them out of another fund. So that's why you see those reductions. If we didn't pay them out of another fund that we are going to make a commitment to pay back, those numbers would be 275,000 higher apiece. There's about just shy of 550,000 in master lease payments that next year is the last year of those payments. So I don't know if that makes sense, but instead of paying it out of the general fund, we're paying it out of the capital fund. Next year, you're going to see in the FY27 budget, you're going to see a repayment of the capital fund, and so that we can put the money back, because it's the right thing to do. But we're going to kind of get through this year and do the best we can, and then in the following 3 years, hopefully pay it back.
I'm just going to ask a question about that. Mayor, on 165, and I saw Director Crowley here, I just had an inquiry, because I think it showed that a lot of the field maintenance money was still in that account. Is that accurate, or is it spent, or going to be spent by the end of the year?
Yes, Mr. Crowley can speak, but it's my understanding that it is encumbered.
Okay.
So there's no room in the FY25. And then there's a little discrepancy because during the transposing the budgets, the ball fields was left out of the rec budget, and I put it back in. So that offsets some of the department request in the mayor's proposed.
That's, I'm good. Does anybody else have any follow-up questions of the mayor? Okay. No other questions on resolution 2510? Just for the folks with us today, there will be no vote, as you know, most of you know. I see most of the department heads here. We won't be taking any action on it. So I'm going to close this public hearing at, please? Didn't I open a public? Oh, yeah, but members of the public can speak. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry, apologize. Director or superintendent? Thank you for that.
Thank you, Steve. First, I go to the mayor. It truly has a team effort. What we do, the one that next slides, there is a super construction part of the budget, right? Operating part of the budget. On the super construction side, we've done fantastic work. We came back, we renovated, added on to Royal Hill. The same priority. Some action. Now we have to get a community. Coming soon, we can get more. Working at the middle school, working at the high school. That all comes with a price, as we know, and that's part of the budget. The challenge on our side is the operating side of the budget. And I gave you a sheet just to give you a little perspective on it. It's the per pupil expenditure from 2020 to 2023. I'm not going to read all the lines to you, just to give you a sense of it. In 2020, the average cost of a student in Rhode Island was $18,438. In Cumberland, we're at $15,214, so we were behind the average by a little over $3,000 per child. Fast forward to 2023, the average cost of a child was $23,357. We're at $17,451, so we're behind by $5,900. So it's getting compounded, if you will. And you might ask the question, well, if that's the case, Superintendent, how are we staying in the game? The answer is doing more with less and also relying on fund balance. You've heard that before, right? Fund balance. A few years back, we had $5.5 million in fund balance. This year, we're using $2.2 million of that to carry this budget. Next budget, we have 1.2 already baked in. So that leaves us with around a little over $2 million in fund balance going forward. So a time will come very soon where fund balance will no longer be an option. And this PPE problem will kind of rear its head then. You'll see it because we're out of fund balance. Having said that, as you know, the mayor so far has modeled 745 for the operating, and that would have us cut a little over $500,000. To give you a sense of what I'd recommend to the committee in June, essentially it would be 2 jobs. The first part of the funding brought back all the jobs except 2 as far as I can calculate. So 2 jobs, one at BF Norton, one at the high school. And then I would be cutting some technology and also doing some more one-time spending, using some grant funds to do more structural deficit spending. So the 1.2 million structural deficit would probably be more like a 1.4. So that's essentially it. I know you're in a bind, but anything you could do to carve out any monies would be fantastic. But I realize the numbers are tight, but that's where we are right now. And just trying to kind of keep up. Nothing we have in the budget, I believe, is extra or fluff. We really are kind of cutting it down here. In terms of technology, what we're cutting, give you a sense of it. We have a high school computer lab. It's very old. We're not going to replace it. And we're not going to be upgrading Chromebooks in one of the grades. We'll just fix them as they break, and hopefully we can run for luck for another year with those students, and things like that. So, like I said, I realize it's challenging, but anything you could do to find any more funds would go towards first, in my mind, those last 2 positions that we have cut right now. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions if that's appropriate at this time, or I can come back later.
Any questions for the superintendent? Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Thornton. Committeewoman Smith, welcome.
Dr. Thornton's very tall. Thank you very much, Carrie Smith, Vice Chair of the School Committee. And Dr. Thornton has said it, the mayor has said it. There's been a great collaboration throughout the years. We stood before you a few weeks ago supporting the mayor's decision through a resolution of increasing the 3% up to the maximum 4% if needed for this budget. And we did so with the strong emphasis, I believe, on many of you and what you were talking about with the school. Right? Dr. Thornton has shared the numbers. We continue to go in the wrong direction for our per pupil spending, yet we make it happen. We have excellent schools. Our grades continue to be the top in the state. Our educators have really put in a lot of time and effort. We had $5.5 million in increase in expenses in our budget this year. And we came into the state and into the town, and the total that we were asking for and looking at between both parties was $3.3 million. $1.2 million is going to be used with the fund balance, and then we had cuts elsewhere. Okay? I just want to make it known that is 2.2% of our budget that we were asking for an increase from the town this year. I know that Dr. Thornton has found other ways to try to save money, but it comes at the expense of these students. Chromebooks, very important. They continue to break. We continue to have problems. We have a short amount of Chromebooks in use. There's going to be a grade that's going to be impacted. And these are technology things that have helped increase as we go through, starting in elementary school, using those Chromebooks for programs like IXL that's used for math, and then the English programs that we use. These are all things that the students are learning at home and in classroom, and they're doing it through the fun that we're giving them through their Chromebooks. So it's real important that we look at that. Multi-learner language students. We had budgeted for 298 students last year. We are already at 348 students. That number continues to grow. 1.5 million additional funds needed to support the MLL program. Right? That's not going away, and we're going to continue in that projection. I know the thought is we should be happy because we're getting some money versus other towns and cities in the state of Rhode Island not getting funds or being level funded, but they're not us. They're not increasing their student population. We are. They're losing population. We're not. We have to look at this and we have to really play around with numbers, and we shouldn't do that. I've looked at the numbers here, and I'm not calling out any group in particular. I'm not saying you should be cutting from one group or another. That is your job as the town council. But based upon the increase that the mayor has proposed, that's a 1.35% increase in our school budget that is going to be in that proposal. 1.35%. We were looking for 2.2. 1.35%, yet we are, or were last year, 58% of the budget. So if you're increasing to up to the 4%, and we're 58% of that, why are we only seeing a return of 1.35%? The numbers just don't add up for us. And again, I know that the mayor, I know that the superintendent works. I'm incredibly conservative when it comes to fiscal, and we just can't cut it. Our number will drop to 49.6% of the entire town budget. We were at 58% last year with the audited. The school department's going to be dropping down to 49.62%. Right? We're going in the wrong direction, and we're going in that direction fast. Some of you have been here for years. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that number was about 70%. Right? That shows that we have good collaboration. That shows we're doing everything that we can, but we just can't continue to survive like this. Our fund balance, it's projected that we should keep at least 4% in our fund balance. That number comes out in the audits. That number plays into the town rating. If we're not keeping fund balance, we're not taking fiscal responsibility on our own budget. Yet we can't do anything further than what we're doing. The state's not giving it to us. The state is not using a funding formula. They're still trying to figure out what the new funding formula will be. We need to look at our town, and we need to look at some of the information that we're providing you to say, what can we do? Some of the numbers, and again, I am not pointing to any particular group to say cut somebody's budget. That is your job to work it out. I just want to give you some numbers, though. Looking at the town budget, town clerk's department is getting an increase of 10.5%. Again, they're smaller numbers than the school budget, but it's just the fact that if we're going to spread it and we're going to equal it, then we should be doing it across the board, not taking it from the majority of the money that the school would play into that 3 or 4% and using it elsewhere. 3.8% in the planning department. Emergency medical services, I am not picking on you guys, I promise. 12% increase in their budget. As you can see, there's a lot out there that we're looking at. And fringe benefits, 8.99% increase. And the schools are getting 1.35 increase now. I just need you to really look at these numbers and understand that if we're going to continue to use that percentage based on the school committee being half of that, then we should really be looking to balance everybody, not just keep taking it away from the school department. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think so. Any questions?
I just have one. I'm looking at the numbers here, and we're saying the school committee is 83,685,749 out of 125,214,692, which is 66%. So I'm just not sure where you're getting 49.62%.
I had just done the math and came out with 49.62% when I used my calculator. So 83 million of 125.
Yeah, that's definitely more than half. Not to put you on the spot, I'm just
No, no,
trying
that's,
to.
that's okay, because that's a number that I only did when we got here, when I received this, and I
Okay.
did it on a phone calculator, so I apologize if that number's wrong, but I will go back and pull out the numbers again.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's still the fact that it's 1.35%.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I understand that it's still lower, but I mean, I think it is still accounting for a significant portion of the town's budget. And, I do think, having read through every page of the budget, I did not see a lot of fat going to other departments. That doesn't mean I don't think we need more for schools. It's just, going line by line, I'm not seeing a lot of areas to cut without maybe starting to cut people. And even when you look at overall staffing for the town, we don't have, a very robust number of people in any of our departments. I will say that in addition to having the lowest per pupil spend, we do still maintain one of the lowest property tax rates, even with the proposed increase for this coming year. And I think that's probably where we're getting some of these problems, is that we've been historically underfunded. And now we're playing catch up, not just with schools, but with roads and, water mains and computers at town hall. So I think, people are doing their best, but it's a historical problem that it's going to continue to be a real challenge for us.
And we agree with you that it's been historically low, and we understand that, and it's difficult to go through years like this. We had set it at 3% for so long, and now it's really coming to head for everybody. And I'm not looking for you to take and cut other people, but we are cutting people.
Yeah.
We are going to, and then as those class sizes increase, right, our teachers are going to go elsewhere. They're not going to continue this way. They're just not going to do it. I just left the National Honor Society, Junior Honor Society for the middle schools, 378 eighth graders between both schools. Approximately 150 of them made Junior National Honor Society. That number is unbelievable. That comes from the help and the guidance from all the faculty. We're going to start losing them. They're not making idle threats anymore. They are looking elsewhere. They can go across the border in Massachusetts, and they can do better with less kids in the classroom. Right now, we're maxing out every classroom, and now we're going to be adding to some of our more important special needs and MLO classes. We're going to have to start increasing the class sizes to account for cutting of personnel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I got one question.
Mr. McGill.
If there's over a certain amount of kids in the classroom, do the teachers get paid an overage at the end of the year for those students?
They do.
So they are compensated?
They are. We have set numbers in their contract with them, and if they go over it, then there's certain things that have to happen. They can only go over it up to a maximum of 2 students within that, and anything over that, if we come into that, then has to be a negotiated cost. And so that plays into adding increased costs that we don't have budgeted.
So 2 students per class,
Correct.
they would be paid an overage.
So in the high school or middle
Right.
schools, at 27 students per class, we can go up to 29 under the contract, and they do get paid for that. Anything over that, which we have had happen, it's going to increase that cost again. And again, that's not money that we budget. So then we have to go try to find money elsewhere if that.
No, I know you just bring up the point with it, a teacher might want to go up to Massachusetts or somewhere else, but they are compensated for the extra students. That was just my point. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Would it? Sure, Mr. Mativia?
So I have a question, I don't know if it's for the mayor. The school construction bonds that we have out there, is that part of the 83 million, or is that listed somewhere else?
Yes.
So all the school bonds for the new construction is all part of the 83 million?
We did not borrow 83 million, but under the
No, I'm sorry.
line,
No, the school,
no, the answer to that question is no. That's not, that's,
not part of the 83 million?
no,
83,
No.
685?
no,
So if you put that in there, it'd be higher.
right. So you, So let me speak to that. In past years, I put debt service as just town debt service. The idea of pitting the school department and town departments, I think is a path to nowhere. I don't subscribe to that philosophy, and so we have put it back this way, and you'll see school bonds, debt interest and debt principal, and, you know, they're just shy of $6 million, and on the town side, it's just like 2.2 million. So the $6 million is not included on the school department side of the budget, nor are the master leases that they are in there, but they're not paid for. But I honestly did not believe, when you borrow $80 million and the interest-only payment is $2.7 million and a 4% levy is $3 million, you do not have to be a math major to think that that's going to cause some sort of constraint on your budget. And then it is offset by school housing aid, and that was, instead of the town of Cumberland getting 38%, it's upwards of 54%, but you still have to pay the bill and the associated interest with that bill. And to think that you're going to pay that and not go over 4% and still fund to levels, and I have, certainly the per pupil expenditure, is a real number. In many respects, it's not relevant because you could never get out of the bottom. You couldn't fund it enough to get out of the bottom at this point. But, recognizing that, so, I don't think it's beneficial to pit one against the other. I've never subscribed to that.
I wasn't looking to pit, I was just curious.
No, I'm not saying you did.
Okay.
But it's not the path to the promised land. We made an investment, we made a commitment. The reality is that there's going to be others who are going to have to share in that, because you're not going to have a structurally unbalanced budget on the school side, a structurally unbalanced budget on the town side, and think that you're going to do all that without some sort of drastic reduction in expenses somewhere or an increase in price. It is a math problem, and it's not a hard one. So that's what you're coming to. But the fact that, if you took that out of the equation, we wouldn't be having this discussion, right? That has a major impact on, on the ability to fund all the departments, including the school department.
One last follow-up to that, the 6 million in debt and interest, is that net of what the state is reimbursing us?
No, that's the gross number.
Oh, so it's not
The
actual.
net side is on the revenue side under the school housing aid. And the school housing aid number incorporates previous bonds and previous master leases and the 79 million. I think it was actually 70, just shy of 75 million on the borrowing. But that is the gross, and that's why if you went to the state right now and asked to go over the 4%, they, from the Department of Revenue, which is one mechanism, you would get denied, because the fact is that the housing aid is offsetting the increase in the debt service. I wrestle with that because the reality is, last year, we used fund balance so that it wouldn't go over the 4%, because, we all want to stay under the 4%, right? So you do that, and now you're at the point this year where you could argue that you need that extra revenue, and it is a qualifying condition, but because the offset is as high as it is, you would not qualify. The only way to go over 4% would be to petition the General Assembly, and you would have to ask your legislative contingent to put that forward, similar to what Providence is doing, and Pawtucket, by the way. So, but the reality is that, yes, year to year, but next year certainly looks like a significant challenge. Maybe the year after, might be able to. But it's going to be tight, and the reality is, I don't know how you borrow $80 million roughly and not think it's going to get tight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a follow-up on that, Mayor. We're still in the position to get 65% reimbursement though, right?
No, I don't, I
Wasn't that what?
think it was 58.6, and there was an outside shot, there was like 17 bonus points. My recollection is that it's somewhere, it wasn't as high as 64. I know the resolution on this borrowing was that it had to be over 50.
I thought
It had
the
to be over
60
50%,
I
but
thought the 65 was just about guaranteed if you met each bucket.
I have to check on
Does
that.
that remember, Superintendent, when we were pushed this in 17?
Memory serves, I believe we're locked in for the 59, and the last bonus point was the one they were still looking at to make it 64, 63.8, something like
Okay,
that.
that's right. Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that. Any other questions of the mayor? I'm going to go continue on to the public comment, excuse me, for the public hearing. Would anyone else like to address the council on this particular ordinance? Madam Clerk, anyone joining us virtually?
But I can't see the list of attendees. I'd have to ask Sarah King if she can see them on her end.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so with that said, again, there's
Mr.
going to be...
President, too, just to clarification too, but on some of the, when you look at some of the department budgets, there's movement inside those departments. So one can look like it goes up, and, you know, that could be a town, a clerk that wasn't getting health care or now is getting health care, or there was a clerk in that department that wasn't, who's now left, and another one has come in. So, you know, I think there was an assertion that the town clerks went up 13%, but, you know, if there's a new initiative in this budget, I don't know what it is.
I agree. I didn't see, I think we all looked over this pretty well. There wasn't anything to hold off on for another year. Okay. No further comment from the public. No one joining us virtually. I'm going to close, again, there'll be no vote. I'm going to close this public hearing at 6:55 PM. Next item on our agenda, we're moving over to ordinance 2511. We have an ordinance establishing the operating budget for the Town of Cumberland's Water Department for fiscal year 25-26, presented by the Town Council President on behalf of the administration. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:55 and read the numbers into the record here. So we're going to be on Water Department revenues. We got $7,712,013. Total expenditures is $7,712,014. Mayor, did you want to start or comment on the Water Department's budget?
I don't know if Romeo wants to tackle any of this. I think this was presented by actual previous Public Works Director, Joe Duart. I know there's an ordinance in front of the council to incorporate the rates that are associated with the Water Department budget. As far as any detailed questions as to the expenditures, I think the Water Superintendent is in attendance. Yes. If you wanted any questions on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that stands out is the increase in the revenue and the expenditure of the $700,000. Is that right? From 2025, we were $7,037,000.
Yes. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, so I mean, you can see that you've got from the approved budget in 2025, you've got so the rate's going to incorporate that increase on the usage revenue. There is then on the surcharge on the water from Pawtucket Water. All those are, you know, those are what are required to meet the expenditure side, you know, of the budget. I mean, there is a deficit reduction surcharge, so these rates are built in to start paying back the general fund, which we have noted. I don't know the exact number as of today, but we knew that that number was easily in the $3 million range. So the water department has to start paying back the general fund, so that is 436,000 of those revenues are based on paying that back.
Thank you, Mayor, I see that. Director, good evening.
Council President, council members. Just to echo on to the mayor's quick analysis, it's that 700,000 is an increase in water treatment chemicals, purchased water, Pawtucket water supply, and that deficit reduction that Joe Duarte had planned each year, approximately $400,000 for the next 6 years or so to make the general fund whole. And I think those three are approximately that 700,000.
Thank you. Any questions of the director? Thank you, Romeo. Did you? No? Would anyone in the audience like to speak on the water department's budget for fiscal year 25-26? Madam Clerk, is anybody joining us virtually? There's no other comments and no vote to be taken. I'm going to close that public hearing. 6:59 p.m. Next item on our agenda, we have ordinance 2512. We have an ordinance establishing the operating budget for the Town of Cumberland Sewer Department for fiscal year 25-26, presented by the Town Council President. On behalf of the administration, I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:59. And we're going to read the budget into the record. Under revenues, proposed by the mayor, 2026 is $831,632. Expenditures, proposed by the mayor, $831,532. Mayor, do you have a
Thank you,
comment
Mr.
on
President, members of council. So you can see here that this was another, prior to Mr. Duarte leaving employment, you can see that we do anticipate making the sewer fund an enterprise fund. So you can see on the expense side, there's a debt service, principal and interest that hasn't been there prior, so there's an assumption that is going to happen. And then you see under the expense side, an infrastructure improvement fund. So this is all kind of setting the groundwork for making this an enterprise fund. You'll also may recollect that although the president curtailed all appropriations requests in the FY25 budget, but we did have a $2.3 million project in Berkeley that was looking really positively until it wasn't, and that has been, and that didn't make the cut in the continuing resolution on the federal side. So we did have a grant, though, to do the engineering there. So, but long story short, this is the next step in making that not the quasi-enterprise fund that it kind of acts like now, but actually being a legitimate one. And I think the rates that are associated with this budget have already been passed by the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, council? Again, anybody joining us would like to speak on the sewer budget? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, anybody joining us virtually on the sewer budget?
Mr. President?
Yes.
I would be remiss too that the longtime, I'm not sure how to, but the longtime employee who has effectively been the only employee in the sewer department, Dave Carr, is actually retiring this week. So I felt like I needed to note that. Dave's birthday is either a day in front of mine or a day behind mine. I'm not really sure. No matter how many times he tells me, I forget. But we thank Dave for his his longtime service. Thank you.
And I think the council would like to share those wishes. I worked with never mind in the council, but I was on the police department. He's just a class act all around, so good luck if you're watching, Dave. But there's no further comment online, is that correct? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing for the sewer at 7:03. Next item on our agenda is ordinance 2513. We have an ordinance establishing the operating budget for the town of Cumberland's Recreation Fund for fiscal year 2025, 2026, again presented by the council president on behalf of the administration. I'm going to open this public hearing at 7:03 PM. Mayor, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can take this. This is, we've gone back and forth where ran it through the general fund and didn't run it through the general fund. So, but Mr. Crawley, Director Crawley has done a great job here in recreation. And if you looked at the year-to-date and compared it to the budget in FY25, running really close. And so, these are just pretty much the same type of estimates. Anytime the revenues exceed the expenses, that, that increases the fund balance in that fund. So this is this year's best estimates for those events, but clearly, if the revenue is down, then there's an appropriate reduction in the expense side. And I don't recall a year in which the expenses outran the revenue. So we have this year's proposal at $173,000. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just read that revenue in the record. It's $173,000. Recreation's expenditures are also $173,000. And I do want to echo what you said about the Director Crawley, and I'll tell you why. That is not a department that has a dozen people or 12 people. And if you look from the time he started until time here, those programs have grown, new programs. And to do it in a fiscal responsible way, he should be, get a little congratulations. So thanks, Mike. Any comments on the recreation budget? Madam Clerk, anyone joining us on the recreation budget online? Hearing no comments on that, ordinance, I'm going to close it, public hearing at 7:05 PM. Next item on our agenda is public comment again. If anyone would like to speak to the council on any topic, please feel free to come up and just state your name and address for the record. I see none in the chamber. Madam Clerk, anyone joining us virtually? I'm going to go down to the next item on the agenda is adjournment. I got a motion by Councilor Shaw. I got a second by Councilor McGill. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned at 7:06 by a vote of 5-0 with Councilors Bradley and Bolio absent. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We greatly appreciate it.